Hey everyone, today I'm gonna create a maintenance schedule for HVAC system, which is heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. For your convenience, for our convenience, I have already created the spreadsheets which contains the columns like ID number. The ID number, this is the identification for these components, and usually the accounting are using this ID number in their cost center to record all the cost uh, for the particular HVAC components. And the second column would be the HVAC components like thermostat, furnace, air conditioner, heat exchanger, blower motor, etc. Okay, and the next column will be the last service date. So this is the date where we're gonna base our next service date. Okay, as you can see, the next service date is left blank. Why? Because we're gonna automate the this column, the next service date, and the next service date will be determined based on the last service date and the service interval in months, like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, etc. So if you're going to get automatically the next service date, it would be the last service date plus the number of months that it's going to be serviced. And this is what you call the frequency column. Okay. And this is important in coming up with the next service date. And the next column would be the service status. The service status is the thing that we're going to monitor whether the task that we have assigned for its components are already done, completed, or still on pending. So this would be on the service status, and we're gonna put some highlights on the service status later on. And the task, of course, will involve testing, inspection, checking of the spare of the parts, um, deep cleaning of the parts, especially when you talk about furnace, air conditioner unit, the heat exchanger. You're gonna clean the evaporator coil, condenser coil. Um, every time, especially if the uh, asset is being utilized or operated on a daily basis, then like for huge industrial plant like manufacturing plant, it is important that you do uh, the maintenance servicing religiously. So but what's important in this exercise is the last service date, the next service date, the service interval in months, and the service status. This is where we're going to create our macro. For the next service date, we're gonna create the macro number one in order for us to be able to automate, and because we're not gonna do it manually, the determination of the dates for the next service, we're gonna do it automatically, or we're gonna automate it. And then for the second macro would be on the service status, all right? So the service status, it's either it be pending or it's completed already. So this is where our exercises will be on. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna you know write the VBA codes, create the macro in the VBA editor. Okay. But before we do that, I'd like for example, this one pending. For example, it's either pending or completed. Let's say completed, right? So what I want is for this to be highlighted. Okay. Supposedly on pending, that would be still the task to be done. So it should be a red light. Okay. Highlight would be on red, and the stuff, rather the components that has already been done in their servicing schedule, then supposed to be completed, but we're not gonna do it manually, putting it so that we avoid hassle in doing it, and it takes a long time for the planner or a scheduler to do it. Then we're gonna do it automatically, so it should be automated. All right. So in order for us to automate it, but first I'm gonna go to the conditional formatting here, and then I'm gonna create a new rule for this, okay, in order for us to be able to highlight and identify all the components that are still on pending. Then what I do is I'm going to click the format only cells that contain this one. Just click this one, and then under the format only cells with, okay, I'm gonna click the specific text, and under this would be depending. It's either pending or completed. Then of course I'm gonna format it to highlight depending, and the fill would be the color is red, and the font would be should be black, rather white. I'm gonna click it, right? So this is the highlights when it comes to pending. The preventive maintenance tasks are still not completed, then it would be pending. Then just click OK for this one. Then I'm gonna do another rule. I'll just click the manage rules, right? Then I'm gonna create a new rule, and this would be again format and only cells that contain, and again specific text, and the text would be completed. So this would be completed, and again we're gonna format it, and this time around I'm gonna choose the green light, okay, for the color of the completed, and the font would be black, color black, and click OK, and click OK again. So we already have two rules, highlighting the completed and the pending. And as for the completed would be green, and the pending would be red. And then I just want to click the OK. Okay. So if you're gonna have the completed, right? That would be green, and for the pending, that would be the red color. But of course, I'm not gonna do it manually. Okay, service that I'm gonna create the macro for this one. This would be the second macro, and the first macro would be next service date. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna access the Visual Basic, the VBA editor, through the developer tab. Right now in the ribbon, we still don't have the developer tab. So it's easy to obtain the developer tab. Just click the file and then click the options. And then here in this window, I'm gonna click the customize ribbon. As you can see, the developer is still unclicked. So I'm gonna click this one, the developer, and then click OK. Okay, there you have it. You already have the developer. Now I can access the developer, okay, by clicking the developer tab on the ribbon. Just click this one, and then there you have it. The first icon that we have is the Visual Basic. I'm gonna open it. Then it shows the window of the BBA editor. Okay, so you got the Explorer, you got the properties of the window, and then the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click the insert, and then I'm gonna click the module. Before in my last video, I did an exercise creating a user form, and this time around I'm gonna create the I'm gonna create a macro and then write the VB codes under the module. Okay, this is where I'm gonna create the macro. So just click the module. Then of course, as I've said, I'm gonna create two macros, one for the next service date, and the second one is for the service status. And I'm gonna name my macro start with sub. Sub means subroutine. A short in one is sub. Then I'm gonna name it. Calculate. All right. Calculate. Be sure that you don't put any spaces in between these words. Next, service date. So that's what we're gonna find out in our column service date. Next service date. So it's gonna be VICE service date. Then just enter. Then readily it has end sub already. So in between sub and end sub, you're gonna write your, your coding. Then, but first thing, I'm gonna, identify the variables. So very important that we have the variables. I've already explained what this variable for. So in the VBA, so the thing is, I'm gonna write the dim or dimension, and we're gonna have the last service date. All right. Okay, so last service date. So we're gonna say this is date. So the computer already understand that last service date is a date. I forgot to put as date. This is as date, right? Okay, and the second one is the dim. The dim what? Service interval. So service. This is the frequency of the servicing in months. Service interval, and this would be numbers that we're gonna be put here. See, service interval are numbers. Therefore, it should be integer as integer. Okay. And then the next one, the dim, next dim is next service date. Okay. Next, again, there should be no space between them. Okay. So otherwise, you're gonna have a problem with your program. Next service date would be as date. Again, this is date. All right. Then the next dim is dim I, because we're gonna put loop in our program. So I'm gonna put dim I as, again, this is as integer. This is also integer. And then the last one dimension would be WS. We're gonna be frequently using the WS instead of worksheet. So as worksheet. Okay, gonna be doing our reports in the worksheet, the maintenance scheduling in the worksheet. So you have to specify the dimension worksheet, WS as worksheet, because we're gonna be using more the worksheet. So we're gonna set the WS, which is worksheet, and equal to this workbook, because it is gonna be doing this in this workbook. This workbook, okay, that sheets, okay. Don't put comma, but rather period or point. Then we're gonna identify our sheet, which is sheet number 1. Okay. Don't forget to put double quotation mark and just close it. Okay. Okay. If I go back to the Excel, you see the tab, the sheet tab is sheet number 1. So yeah, I haven't renamed it. So, I'm gonna specify here sheet number 1. Then we're gonna do the loop for I equals to number 2 to WS dot cells. We're gonna be putting our values in the cells. WS again, dot, dot rows, okay, that count, we're counting the rows, okay, we're offsetting every time, okay, so then A, close it, then dot end, then enclose the Excel app, Excel app already, explained this in my previous video, so I'm not gonna do it again. So that row, right? So again, we're gonna, we're gonna identify the cells or the column that we're gonna be putting in this information. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write the last service date. I'm gonna write last service date, and this is equal to what? Equal to WSLs dot cells. WS dot cells. This would be in column 3. So I'm gonna loop it, then comma, then number 3, then close it, then dot value. Okay. So last service date is number 3 column. So 1, 2, 3. So there you have it, your last service date. So we are right about that. So last that value, of course. Then the next item is service interval, and the integer one. Service interval is equal to WS again dot cells. Okay, that cells, then we're gonna specify the loop and the column I, comma, and 5, because the value, because the service interval is on column number 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you have it. This is the service interval or the frequency of the PM servicing. Okay. Okay. See, we forgot to close it, so we have an error. Okay. What would be the next item? Next item is we have to find out the next service uh, date. To find out the next service date, we must know the last service date and the service interval. Okay. Last service date plus the number of months, which is on service interval, then that would be the next service date. Okay. I will expound it a little bit further later. Okay, but now I'm gonna write the next service date. Okay, next service date. Don't forget the date, otherwise you're gonna have problem. It's not the macro is not gonna work. Okay, so mistakes in the terminology will be a mistake in running the macro later on. And in next service date, we need to put the date add. Why? Because we're adding some months, number of months after the last service date, okay, based from the service interval, number of months. So we're gonna add the date and parentheses months, see, the computer already understand it, that it's going to be the service. I'm gonna capitalize it. Service interval. What else? What else? I'm gonna add this, just comma, and then what else? Last service date, of course. Last service date. Okay. All right. Of course, I'm gonna close it with parentheses, right? And then WS that cells loop, comma 4, column 4. because what is under the that value, of course. What is under the column 4? You remember what is column 4? Let's check out. Check it out. Number for 1, 2, 3, 4. There's next service date, right? So we're gonna put next service date here. All right, got it. Okay, this is good so far. Then, of course, we're looping it, so we're gonna put next AI. It's going into loop, and then of course insub, but already here, so no need to write. Now you already have the we already wrote the macro for the uh, next service date, which is the first blank column. Okay, nothing in here. So nothing in here. So we're gonna automate the entry of the date information here, the dates. All right. So that's for, and then the next one, the next macro that we're gonna write would be on this column, which is the service status. It's either pending or completed. Okay. So again, I'm gonna write the sub. Okay. And what would be the appropriate name for this macro? Say, since we are updating the service status, I'm gonna say update service status. Service status. Okay, as simple as that. All right, just enter. Okay, we're gonna assign this in order for us to be able to run the macro. We're gonna create a button, and then we're gonna assign the button with this update service status macro in order for us to be able to run the service status. Okay, it's either pending or completed. Just like the first macro, I'm also gonna, specify the dimension, the variables. Then first variable is next service date. No spaces in between. Of course, this is date, so as date. And then the next dimension would be dim. We're gonna dim the current date. Okay, before we didn't have the current date. Very important because the basis of the service status is from the current date. Okay, so less than the current date would be pending. Okay, supposedly pending, and more than the current date or beyond the current date is what? Completed, supposedly completed, because it's already beyond the current date, and that's theoretical. It's important that the technicians or the maintenance department is, proactive in carrying out the preventive maintenance tasks, that nothing is missed, so that the maintenance schedule would be successful if you have good technicians. You're talking about huge industrial plant like manufacturing plant, food manufacturing plant, or hardware manufacturing plant. Then you got huge HVAC units that is being operated inside the plant, especially for food and beverage type of manufacturing plant. Then you need HVAC, and they should be working properly and efficiently. And this will happen if you have a good maintenance crew or technicians working around the clock for the maintenance servicing of these units or these components, right? So, okay. So we're gonna deem the current date as date. Okay. Okay. The next the thing that we're gonna dim it is the dim I, is the loop as integer. All right, integer. Then the next one would be the dim I, or rather WS worksheet, right? As worksheet, as worksheet. Okay. I hope I got it right. All right. Then, of course, we'll be using in our, we're going to be using in our worksheet as WS. We'll be frequently using this terminology. Then equals to this workbook. As we are working on this workbook, Excel workbook, and of course, we'll be working on the sheets. So that sheets should be double E, sheets, plural. Then enclosed in the parentheses would be the, don't forget the double quotation mark, sheet number one, because we are on sheet number one and we did not rename, I did not rename it. So the name should be sheet one still. Okay. Almost there. Current date. We're going to specify the current date. What would be the current date? The current date is today, right? Today is equals to date. Okay. Current date is today. What is the date today? Like today is 25th of January. So it should be current date equals to date. All right. Then I'm going to loop it for I is equal to number to WS dot sales. We have no problems so far. So far, so good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the parentheses WS dot rows, then dot count, okay, then comma, then A inside the quotation mark, then close it, then dot end, okay, dot end, then I'm gonna enclose the Excel app, then that row. Simple as that. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna do the next service date. Next service date. Don't forget the date. Don't just write next service, but also it will include the date. Then equal sign WS dot sales again. This is where we're going to put the value, and then of course the looping, and then comma, and then number 4, column number 4, because this is where we're going to put the value on this column number 4, which is the next service date, and of course that value, and enter. All right, almost there. So this time, okay, we're gonna determine, if you go back to the Excel, we're gonna determine the whether the next service is already done, completed, or the next service, the status would be uh, in terms of the next service is already completed or pending, on pending. So we need to have an if statement for this. Okay. And the basis for the service status is based on the current date. That's why we have the current date here equals to date. The current date is less than or equal to, the next service, this one, the next service is less than or equal to equal to current date. Okay, the current date is like today equals today, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, then enter. Then the current date is 25th of January, already here, right? That would be our basis in coming out with the service status. Okay, then we go back to the Visual Basic. Okay, date, current date. Okay. So next service date. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write an if statement. So I'm gonna write if next service date. Okay, next service date is less than or equal to current date. Current date is today. Current date is today. So current date. Okay. Then what's the opposite? This is for the pending. The opposite is completed. Okay. So if this next service is less than or equal to current date, then it should be WS dot sales uh, loop, comma, and then column 6, close it, that value. All right. Okay. Otherwise, or else, if not less than or equal to current date, that would be our basis. So else is WS cells, WS dot cells, I6, I, comma, 6 column, still on the service status. Close it, then that value, right? Equals to opposite of pending. Sorry, uh, I made a mistake. I should have, I should have written the pending here. Pending. See, sometimes I forget. Okay. There should be a double quotation, otherwise the computer will not recognize it as pending. So again, I go back here. WS is completed. This is the opposite. It's either pending or completed. Right? Simple as that. WSI6 value, same thing. But the difference is the pending and the completed. Okay. Now we're gonna end the F. I'm gonna end the F. Then come. All right. Then next I. Otherwise, the loop will not run if you don't have next I. Then in sub. Okay, already have it. Okay, so there you have it. We have already created two macros. One macro is called calculate next service date. Then the second macro is update the service status. And these two macros are intended for these two, next service date and service status. So what I'm gonna do? How are we gonna run the macro? We can run the macro, okay, in the macro, but I'd like to have a button for this. So we are already here in developer tab. I'm just gonna click the insert and the button that we're gonna create, and then just create the button here, right here. Then assign the macro. The first one that we're gonna utilize is to calculate next service date, and click OK. And I don't like button 3 as the caption. I'm gonna change the caption for this. I'm gonna write next service date. Okay, next service date. It means we're gonna be utilizing the button for this column, column D. And then I don't like the way it looks, so I'm gonna go to home and then again make it bold, and then just one point higher. Okay, then again we're gonna create another macro for the service status and just gonna copy Control C and Control V. Okay, that's it. Very quick. Okay, now I don't like this. So what I'm gonna do is Sorry, edit text. What I'm gonna do is uh update update service status. Okay, there you have it. Then right click that button, assign macro. A macro should be update service status. Then click OK. Right? I don't think we missed anything. Okay, let's run the macro. Next service rate, you just click the button here. Okay, there you have it. So uh, if you have a long list of spreadsheets, the column long list, this will come in handy, because just one click of the button, it will show the next service dates. Okay, I'm just showing you as a matter of exercise. I'm just showing you a short list. But if you're working for a huge organization with a huge manufacturing plant, then you're gonna need more spaces. You're gonna need more rows to list down all the equipment that needs to be serviced. Okay, so if you check this out, okay, this is 8th of January 2025, and here, since our frequency of service interval is 3 months, so January plus 3 months, that would be April. And here, 6 months, so 11 November 2024, and plus 6 months, that would be 11 May 2025. Okay, got it? All right. So that's why it could be all the component could be done on the same month's frequency, on the same frequency, like 3 months all together, or maybe 6 months. All these items could be 6 months, or it could be 12 months. This actually would depend on your the maintenance manual, right? Or maintenance service manual. So if your manual says 6 months, then 6 months all the way. Or if your manual says 3 months across the board, then okay, you put 3 months. So it's up to you. This is just for the exercise that we're doing now. Now the next macro, we're gonna run the next macro, update service status, and just gonna click it. See, it's easy for us to understand the service status. Okay, what is the status? You're showing some components that are already completed. And as you can see, there are 3 pending. So now the planner would advise, or the scheduler would advise the maintenance department, or maintenance department, you still have pending. We have air ducts and vents still pending for inspection, cleaning, etc. Maybe changing parts, okay, damaged parts, or maybe changing filter, changing whatever, okay. And oh, you get 3. The second one is the chiller, needs to be serviced. And the third one would be diffuser, needs to be serviced, still on pending. You get 3 pending. So that's why important that we're gonna highlight it, so that the it's easy to to prioritize which one should be prioritized in terms of the preventive maintenance servicing, doing all these tasks. Okay, so this will help in the management of the maintenance department. So if you have this tool that you can use, and you understand how it's going to be created, then that would be good for your maintenance management of the maintenance department. Okay, and you just have to give guidance on the technicians on how are you going to do the tasks and scheduling the tasks. Okay, I hope you like it, and thank you for watching. This is it.